You've been putting expensive steroid creams on your psoriasis for years, but the patches keep coming back bigger and angrier. What if I told you that treating psoriasis as a skin condition is the exact reason it will never heal? Today, we are exposing. This video is for educational purposes only. Psoriasis is a systemic autoimmune condition. Do not abruptly stop taking biologic medications or prescribed steroids without consulting your dermatologist or rheumatologist, as this can cause a severe disease rebound. High-dose vitamin therapy must be monitored with regular blood tests. I know how exhausting this gets. You are not imagining it. You are not weak, and you are definitely not failing because you did not find the right cream. For years, people with psoriasis have been handed the same message: treat the skin. But that instruction is incomplete, because the skin is not the origin of the fire. The skin is where the fire shows up. That distinction matters. When a dermatologist sees the plaques, the natural instinct is to calm the visible symptom first. And sometimes that is useful. But if all we do is silence the surface, while the immune system underneath keeps sounding the alarm, the problem simply waits. It does not disappear. It returns, often stronger. Psoriasis is not just dry skin. It is not just irritation. It is not a cosmetic defect. It is an immune system conversation happening in the wrong place, at the wrong intensity, for too long. And if you have lived with this for years, you already know the emotional weight of that truth. The burning hope after each new cream, followed by the same heartbreak when the plaques return. This is why so many people feel trapped. They spend money on topicals, hope for a reset, get a few days or weeks of relief, and then the cycle begins again. That cycle can make you feel like your body is betraying you. But what is really happening is more specific, more biological, and more solvable than shame ever tells you. So let us start here. Your skin is not the villain. Your skin is the messenger. It is the billboard. It is the visible surface where an internal immune imbalance becomes impossible to ignore. Once you understand that, everything changes. You stop asking, how do I silence my skin? And start asking, why is my immune system on high alert? And that is the point of this masterclass. Not blame, not fear, clarity. Because once you see psoriasis as an immune condition with skin symptoms, you can finally stop treating the surface as if it were the whole story. You can begin thinking in systems, not just in symptoms. In the next section, we are going to talk about why steroid creams can become such a frustrating trap for some people, why withdrawal can feel terrifying, and why a temporary quieting of inflammation is not the same thing as true resolution. Stay with me, because understanding the mechanism is the first step toward taking your power back. Now, let us talk about the part so many people live through quietly: the steroid trap. Topical corticosteroids are designed to calm inflammation fast. They can reduce itching, redness, and immune activity on the surface, and they also create vasoconstriction, meaning the small blood vessels in the skin tighten temporarily. That is why the skin can look calmer so quickly. But fast relief is not the same thing as true repair. And that is where frustration begins. Because when a medicine works by suppressing what you can see, it can feel like the problem is gone. Then the prescription ends, the immune activity wakes back up, and the same cycle starts again. Psoriasis itself is chronic and relapsing, so recurrence is already part of the disease pattern for many people. That is why short-term control can be mistaken for real resolution. With long-term or repeated steroid use, there is also a hidden cost that people are often not warned about clearly enough: skin thinning, weakened skin, visible blood vessels, and a more fragile barrier. Health agencies and dermatology sources warn that prolonged topical steroid use can lead to atrophy and other local side effects, especially with stronger preparations or frequent use. That matters because a damaged barrier is not just a cosmetic issue. It means the skin becomes more vulnerable, more reactive, and more dependent on the next application just to feel normal again. For some people, the cream starts to feel less like a solution and more like a daily emergency brake. Then there is topical steroid withdrawal, or TSW. This is the part that makes many people feel terrified to stop. NHS guidance notes that after long-term use, some people can develop a reaction within days or weeks of stopping topical steroids, with burning, redness, itching, peeling, or weeping skin. The mechanism is thought to involve vasoconstriction, barrier dysfunction, and a rebound inflammatory cascade. And I want to say this carefully. Not every flare after stopping a steroid means TSW, and not every person using a topical steroid will experience withdrawal. But if someone has been using potent steroid creams for a long time and suddenly gets a severe rebound, that experience is real, frightening, and worthy of medical attention. The point is not panic. The point is respect for what the body is telling you. This is why people get trapped emotionally. The cream brings relief, so they trust it. Then the body seems to demand it again, and again, and again. At that stage, many patients are not failing treatment. They are caught in a suppression cycle that never fully addresses the underlying immune signal driving the disease. So here is the clinical truth I want you to hold on to. Topical steroids can be useful tools, especially for short-term control, but they are not a cure for psoriasis. They are a control mechanism. And when control is mistaken for healing, people stay stuck for years, wondering why the condition keeps returning. In the next chapter, we go deeper into the biology of psoriasis itself, because once you understand the immune circuitry behind the plaques, you stop blaming your skin for a fire that started elsewhere. Now we get to the biology that changes everything. Psoriasis is not a simple surface irritation. It is a chronic inflammatory multi-system disease. And the visible plaques are only one expression of a much larger immune process. In psoriasis, immune signaling goes off script. T cells and other immune messengers become overactive, and cytokines such as TNF-alpha, IL-17, IL-23, and IFN-gamma help drive the inflammatory loop that tells skin cells to grow far too quickly. That rapid turnover is part of what creates the thick, scaly plaques people know so well. This is why it feels so unfair. The problem is not that your skin is weak. The problem is that your immune system is behaving as if it has a mission to protect you, when in reality it is attacking the wrong target. That is not a character flaw. That is an immune misfire. This is also where biologics enter the story. Medicines such as adalimumab are designed to reduce inflammation by acting on the immune system. NHS explains that adalimumab blocks TNF, and FDA labeling shows that Humira and similar TNF blockers can be highly effective, but they also carry serious risks such as infections, including tuberculosis reactivation. And that is the trade-off people must understand clearly. Biologics can be incredibly valuable tools, especially when psoriasis is severe or life-altering. But they are not gentle herbal tonics. They are powerful systemic therapies that modulate immune function throughout the body, which is exactly why they can work so well, and exactly why they require medical supervision. Here is the deeper truth. Biologics can quiet the fire, but they do not automatically answer the question of why the fire started in the first place. That is not a criticism. It is just a reminder that symptom control and root cause support are not the same job. One reduces the attack. The other tries to change the terrain that allowed the attack to keep happening. This is an inference from how these therapies work and from the fact that psoriasis is a chronic immune-mediated disease rather than a one-time skin injury. That is why I want you to stop thinking in either or terms. This is not medication or healing. It is not biologics or lifestyle. The strongest approach is usually a coordinated one. Use the right medical therapy with your specialist, while also supporting the immune system through the foundations that may reduce reactivity over time. That perspective is more honest, more sustainable, and far kinder to your nervous system. So yes, biologics matter. They can be life-changing. But they are part of an immune strategy, not proof that the skin was ever the whole story. Once you see that clearly, the next question becomes unavoidable. What is feeding this immune overactivity? And how do we support the body so the fire stops relighting itself? Now we enter the part of the story that changes how many people think about autoimmune skin disease forever. The gut-skin axis. In the scientific literature, the gut and the skin are described as bidirectionally connected through immune signaling, microbial signals, and inflammatory pathways. In plain English, what happens in the gut can influence the tone of the immune system that eventually shows up on the skin. This is where the conversation gets deeper than creams and more honest than just stress. The gut is not a side character in immunity. It is a major immune hub. Reviews estimate that the GI tract can contain up to 70% of the body's lymphocytes, and the mucosal immune system contains the majority of the body's Ig-producing cells. That is why the gut is so often described as one of the biggest immunological organs in the body. So when people say, "My psoriasis started after my digestion got worse," or "My flares track with what I eat, how I sleep, or how inflamed I feel overall," that is not automatically in their head. Psoriasis has been repeatedly linked in the literature to gut microbiome differences and altered inflammatory signaling, although the science is still evolving and does not support a single universal cause for every patient. And this matters because the gut barrier is supposed to be selective. It should absorb what the body needs and keep unwanted material out. When that barrier becomes compromised, the literature discusses increased intestinal permeability as a possible contributor to immune activation and inflammatory signaling. That does not mean every person with psoriasis has the same gut issue, but it does mean the gut barrier deserves respect, not dismissal. This is the biological reason a lot of people do not fully calm down with skin-only treatment. If the immune system is being fed a constant stream of inflammatory noise, the skin is often the loudest place it speaks. And once you see that, the goal changes. The goal is no longer just make the rash smaller. The goal is to reduce the overall immune burden. That is a much smarter strategy. This is also why supportive gut work can be useful as an adjunct. The evidence for microbiome-targeted strategies in psoriasis is promising but not definitive. A 2024 systematic review found that oral probiotics may improve psoriasis, but the authors also emphasized that larger randomized controlled trials are still needed. That is exactly why I do not want you thinking in magical terms. Probiotics are not a cure. L-Glutamine is not a cure. Anti-inflammatory nutrition is not a cure. But when used intelligently, these can be part of a serious support strategy aimed at strengthening barrier function and reducing immune reactivity over time. Clinical trials have also explored glutamine's effect on intestinal permeability, which is why it is often discussed in gut barrier protocols. And this is where I want to say something clearly. Do not stop medications abruptly. If you are on a biologic, a systemic medication, or prescribed steroids, work with your dermatologist or rheumatologist before making any change, because sudden interruption can trigger a severe rebound. The gut-skin axis is a support pathway, not permission to go rogue. So the right framing is not, "I will heal my psoriasis by pretending medicine does not exist." The right framing is, "I will support my immune system from multiple angles." That means stabilizing the barrier, lowering inflammatory burden, and working with your medical team instead of against it. That is the kind of strategy that holds up over time. This is where the clinical gut lining repair protocol fits in. Not as a miracle, not as a replacement, as a foundation. A carefully built protocol can focus on barrier-supportive nutrition, targeted probiotics, and clinician-guided supplements that are chosen to support intestinal integrity and immune balance. That is how you treat the terrain, not just the flare. Because when you stop asking, "How do I punish my skin into behaving?" and start asking, "What is keeping my immune system in a state of alarm?" the entire journey becomes more intelligent, more sustainable, and far more compassionate. Your skin is not the enemy. Your gut, your immune system, and your skin are part of one conversation. The job is to help that conversation become calm again. In the next chapter, we bring everything together and ground this in a realistic plan. What to do, what not to do, and how to support your body without abandoning the care that is already keeping you safe. Let us bring this home. Psoriasis is not a random skin flaw, and it is not a moral failure. It is a chronic, relapsing inflammatory disease of the immune system that can affect the skin, scalp, nails, and joints, and it deserves to be understood in that fuller context. That matters because once you stop seeing your skin as the entire battlefield, you stop fighting a smaller war and start treating the whole terrain. You stop asking for one miracle cream to solve a systemic problem. You start building a calmer biological environment, one layer at a time. And please hear this with compassion. Progress with autoimmune skin disease is often a marathon, not a sprint. The goal is not perfection in a week. The goal is fewer flares, less suffering, better control, and a body that is less reactive over time. That is how sustainable healing thinking looks in the real world. This is also why I keep repeating the same grounding truth. Lifestyle support and nutrition are there to support your medical care, not replace it recklessly. The American Academy of Dermatology notes that healthy habits like exercise and not smoking can help reduce flares, and the NIH Office of Dietary Supplements reminds people that supplements have safety limits and that very high doses can cause harm. That is why a gut support blueprint should be treated like a foundation, not a fantasy. Probiotic and barrier support approaches are promising, but the research is still evolving, and no honest clinician should sell them as a guaranteed cure. What they can do is support the conditions that help the immune system settle down more gracefully. If you are already on a biologic, a steroid, or another prescribed treatment, do not stop abruptly. Biologics are important treatments for moderate to severe psoriasis, and they can be life-changing, but they also require medical supervision because they change immune activity throughout the body. The strongest strategy is not rebellion. It is coordination. It is working with your dermatologist or rheumatologist while you also strengthen the foundations that affect immune tone, sleep, stress, nutrition, barrier support, and long-term consistency. That is not glamorous. It is biological common sense. So if your skin has been screaming at you for years, do not insult it by treating it like the whole story. Listen to it, respect it, and then look underneath it. Because your skin is not the enemy. It is the messenger. Your immune system is the conversation. And the deeper work is learning how to lower the volume without silencing your body's warning system. If this perspective helped you, check the link in the description for the Clinical Gut Repair and Autoimmune Support Blueprint. Use it as a support tool, keep your prescribing clinician in the loop, and build your plan with patience, not panic. This video is for educational purposes only. Psoriasis is a systemic autoimmune condition. Do not abruptly stop taking biologic medications or prescribed steroids without consulting your dermatologist or rheumatologist, as this can cause a severe disease rebound. High-dose vitamin therapy must be monitored with regular blood tests.